Hello, welcome to a really special episode of Back to the City. This is the third time that I've been joined by my friend Mary Bew. Welcome back, Mary Bew. First time that you've been with me here in the MCN6 TV studio.
Yes, so happy to be here.
And soon we will be happy to be at the Uptown VFW for the second event in the new Back to the City Presents Music Heals Us series. And in a way, that's become a series because I wanted to involve you. Because I know multiple musicians who are also wellness practitioners. And so I thought an ideal lineup for an event would be you and Annie Fitzgerald and Chance York. All three of whom are wellness practitioners and also musicians, active musicians. You have some retreats coming up. The Nourishing the Creative Spirit retreat, I think, is occurring whilst the event with Annie and Chance is occurring.
In New Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's you and Sarah
Brocky,
who is a fine artist and professor.
Yes.
Is that just that one specific retreat that's the two of you, or do you collaborate?
We have collaborated. We've done actually 2 in Italy, in Florence, and then 1 in Ireland. And she's taught at my Wild Rice retreat as well.
Okay.
But yeah, this will be the first time. I've done in New Mexico before, but we're collaborating this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're unable to play the show with Annie Fitzgerald and Chance York, because that led to that becoming Volume 1 in the Music Heals Us series. And you'll be playing Volume 2 with Larry Wish and Venus de Mars.
Amazing.
It struck me that Back to the City is really all about music healing us. The rationale for there being these conversations that are generally longer than the body of music that is being discussed.
Yes. Fantastic.
Is that so many of us who end up having music play such a central role in our lives experience music as healing.
For sure.
And I was looking back at my previous interview when I was stuck in England, not wanting to bring the Delta variant to the States. It was partly in conversation with you in particular that I began to make sense of what Back to the City is or strives to be. If what we're doing in these conversations is drawing connections across an artist's creative life, it is parallel or an instance of the type of integration, process of integration that you're very familiar with through yoga philosophy and yoga practice.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense that the two of us found ourselves exploring the chakra system. There's a fun video that I'll also kind of share with people, I think, in the run-up to Music Heals Us too.
Fantastic.
Where the two of us, with the help of your music, are introducing viewers to this ancient system, the chakra system, where the chakras can be seen as like a human biocomputer.
Yeah.
And we were drawing on Annabelle Judith and Caroline Mace.
Yes.
Something that came up right near the end of that previous interview of ours is Nada Yoga. What was happening in January 2020?
I went and did an additional 200-hour yoga teacher training in Nada Yoga. So Nada Yoga is the yoga of sound.
Yeah, which is very Music Heals Us.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, so it's transformation through the flow of sound. So Nada means flow. Yeah, I went to Rishikesh in India, and that's the city where the Beatles and Donovan went to study with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So it's right at the base of the Himalayas, and so the Ganga is flowing, and it's an absolutely stunning city. Yeah, and so I was at the Nada Yoga school for a month, and we explored different ways to essentially make your body a more pure vessel for sound to vibrate. And like one of the reasons why I really wanted to go was they said it helps to uncover our own sound that emanates from the heart.
So each of us has our own distinct sound.
Apparently.
And
I didn't uncover it, but I'm on my way.
yeah, it's
Might take a
practice.
few lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these things take time.
Yes,
Lifetimes.
for
Yeah.
sure.
When you were telling me about that 3 years ago, you referred to our inner humming.
Yes.
And between now and then, related to the book about creativity that I've been working on, I wrote a body of songs, and the body of songs is called Hum.
Yay.
The word hum has taken on this greater
I love that.
significance to me. Could you expand? Is that what you were just talking about? Our inner humming?
Yes.
So my essential self is manifested as a sound, yeah?
Yes.
Or one's essential self is.
Yeah, I wish that I was more able to explain it, because it's something that I'm not fully able to comprehend in this lifetime, but I am working on it. So we think of sound as vibration, right? And so everything manifests as vibrating sound, and then so ourselves too are humming and vibrating, and our cells, and just like my voice right now is like vibrating and making the vocal cords move. So that inner sound there, it's called the anahat. So the heart chakra is the anahata. So anahat is the unstruck sound. And then ahat sound is when you're striking. So anything that is like audible, like I'm striking my hands together, my vocal cords are rubbing together, I'm clapping or drumming or strumming an instrument. That's struck sound. Ahat, and then anahat is unstruck, and that is what is said to originate in the heart, that inner hum, as you say. Yeah.
This is the final day of filming the summer session of Back to the City, and it is July 1st.
Yes,
for
wow.
us.
Yeah, it's July.
So, and the reason why I'm doing everything so ahead of time is so that I can shift focus to finishing writing this book on creativity, which is called Our Hummingbird Huts. So this seems quite relevant.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to begin by focusing on Nada Yoga and sound is because something that you'll be doing alongside performing some songs from your forthcoming record, The Wildness of Living and Dying, when you perform at Music Heals Us 2 at the Uptown VFW on Saturday, September 7th, is performing songs.
Yes, so I'll share a few of my most favorite and most personally practiced mantras, Sanskrit mantras. So I'm a very novice I'm a novice at studying Sanskrit. An ancient sound technology, one of ancient languages. So it's, as I was saying, every syllable, it has its own meaning and many meanings. And then when strung together, it's like a spiritual technology. So if you think of thousands of people, thousands of years ago, millions of people chanting in these specific ways, you're tapping, it's like putting a key into the lock of ancient wisdom. So you're tapping into a flow of sound that thousands and thousands of people, thousands and thousands of years ago, were also chanting. So it's just so cool. It can be so potent. And so I'll
participating in that kind of resonance.
Yeah, the resonance. So you're like in with the sounds and like feeling the sound vibrate and putting your awareness on the meaning. Mantra is extremely healing. It's been extremely healing for me.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Annie Fitzgerald and Lady Midnight were both talking with me in their interviews in the run-up to Music Heals Us 1 about this technology, essentially.
Amazing.
So people who come to Music Heals Us 1 and then decide to return to Music Heals Us 2 will have experienced this technology.
Wonderful.
Certainly in Annie's sound journey.
Yes.
And it plays a role in the short film Lady Midnight is premiering too. Annie and Lady Midnight will be passing on the baton.
Excellent. I
People
love it.
will be familiar and open, I think. So you'll be doing that, and you will be playing some songs from your forthcoming record, which you'll be releasing in January. Thank you for giving me an advance listen.
You're
to
welcome.
It is co-produced with Steve Price.
Yes.
You and Steve Price.
Yep.
As was the previous record, The World Is Your Lover.
Yes.
The band that you had for The World Is Your Lover, featuring Jeremy Ilvasaka and Richard Medic. Yep, and a lot of the same guest musicians too.
Yes.
Like Shannon Fried-Ruben playing violin. Of course, she's in Cloud Cult as well.
And also Julia Floberg plays cello on that quite a bit too.
Yes.
So I just want to give her a shout.
Last time that we spoke, you were explaining that when that band first came together, you had a couple of residencies.
Yes.
So as you were recording that record, you were playing together a lot, both at the 318 Cafe and at the Asta Cafe.
Correct.
So then fast forward to this second record with that collection of people. Could you share something about at what stage you reconnect with Steve, transitioning from having a body of songs to then returning to this band and creating this record?
So we've actually been the core band, Steve Price, Jeremy Ilvasaka, and Richard Medic. We've been playing together consistently since 2018 now. So I just feel so honored and grateful. And Julia and Shannon as well for like larger shows. And sometimes I do like little trios with them as well. Anyway, so what makes it different from The World Is Your Lover is World Is Your Lover, some of those songs, so that came out in 2020. And so some of those songs I had written, like The Riverman, the very last song, I wrote that song in 2005. And so there were some songs that were like quite old that like I decided to like bring into, and Tequila Song as well. I had written that in 2002. Yeah. So but this album, The Wildness of Living and Dying, is all songs that were written from 2020 to 2023. So they're very fresh. It's not, I wouldn't call it a pandemic record, although the song The Wait was in response to the shutdown. So when the pandemic hit, I was actually in Bali, Indonesia. I had hosted my first retreat in Bali.
Yes.
And so I had done the India yoga teacher training. And then, so I did that for a month, and then I went to Bali. And actually, I went to Bali, I had a few weeks before my retreat, and I was creating an e-course, an online course about the yoga of sound. But I didn't even know that there would be a global pandemic and that most things would go virtual and e-courses would become like quite important.
Well, that was quite good timing.
I know. So I was like creating that, and then I was able to use that e-course in a few different teacher trainings. Anyway.
That's also at that retreat, that's where the guests brought you the 4-hour session with the shaman. That led to you having every day in 2020. You were saying, what was it? It was not a meditation.
It was it was a forgiveness. It was forgiveness, letting go, and manifesting joy.
Yeah.
Meditation. So yeah, I did that for every day.
Yeah, and then in The Wait, so many things we don't want to know, so too many things we need to let go.
Yes.
Is how it opens.
Yes. Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. I didn't even put that together. But yeah, I was actively working on doing some of that.
Yes, surrendering, letting go. That is the main thing that Chance York and I were talking about in the Music Heals interview that we did. The purgative way. Are you familiar with that phrase, the purgative way?
Well, yeah, I mean purging, right?
Yeah, the past being more about letting go, purging what no longer serves us.
Yes.
That's something that really resonates with me, and that Chance and I were talking about a lot. Given that every day in 2020, you were using that mantra, could you expand on purging and letting go, and how the practices of doing so relate to the songs on The Wildness of Living and Dying?
Yeah, I can try. Well, the meditation, it was actually a meditation that the shaman gave me. It wasn't a mantra.
Okay.
This is a beautiful thing for anyone who would like to try. It's taking 9 deep breaths, like very, very deep belly breaths. Like, obviously you can't breathe in your belly, but just like really letting the lungs expand and letting your belly soften. And then releasing. So exhale, you're purging, you're releasing with every exhale, like physically, right? And then, so 9 giant breaths, and then taking the time to, like, whoever comes to mind that you need to forgive, and yourself, and just like spending a bunch of time forgiving, like whatever big or little thing, like maybe a critical thing you said to yourself, like, okay, forgive myself for that. I forgive this person in 3rd grade for breaking my toy, whatever, just like anything that comes to mind, and just spending a while doing that.
Yeah.
And then taking another 9 cleansing breaths. And then letting go, and just like whatever comes to mind of letting go, like letting go of expectation for 500 people to come to a show, letting go of this one idea about a relationship, just like whatever comes. And then again, spending some time doing that, and then 9 more breaths, and then manifesting joy. So just inviting sensation of joy and bliss and things that you love, and just inviting like hope, and so, and then 9 more breaths after that. So it can be a very long meditation, depending on how much time you have and how deep you want to go.
To me, it seems like that trajectory, doing those 3 things in that order, is significant. Unless we are intentional about trying to bring awareness to what resentments we might be harboring, then we're kind of unconsciously clinging on to all kinds of energy that doesn't serve us. So I feel like the forgiveness and then the conscious letting go creates a space to invite with the joy.
Totally. Yeah.
And I can see that happening in the record.
Oh, good.
We were talking something that was central in our discussion about the world is your lover is this compassionate witnessing. So you and I were reflecting on how there's quite a lot of observing patterns that might not serve us or other people. I really love that it's there, but there isn't this blaming and shaming. So we catch ourselves in the messy act of like getting embroiled in the drama. We don't let the jerk.
Oh, the jerk, of course.
We're not letting the jerk off the hook. And also we're not slipping into blaming and shaming. We talked about the impossible task of seeing dysfunction playing out without becoming misanthropic or cynical. And I feel like that is an extremely difficult task, but it's something that is happening. You're practicing that. If that's a key thing that's happening in the world is your lover, through, for example, catching oneself, like playing the savior, or like the drama triangle in action, and one's own participation in it. This compassionate witnessing, I feel like there is that in the wildness of living and dying as well. If that was central, which I think it was in the previous record, what would you say is central in this instance?
Honestly, many of the songs revolve around, I just had a thought. One song did come before the pandemic.
Which one?
Bones in the Marrow. And I actually released that along maybe in 2022. Anyway, but the other songs, the newer ones,
Joe Peterson is on.
Lightning Joe.
On that.
So I was violently carjacked in 2020.
Yes.
And so these songs are a lot about processing that trauma.
Yes.
It was a near-death experience. It was a fight. It was by 2 teenage girls right outside of my house. So the struggle of being in my house still to this day, and the danger that is lurking right outside the door potentially, which
Yeah.
it was. And
Were the girls initially like asking for help?
yeah, yep, they were asking for help.
So it really
It was
affects
a
one's sense of
manipulative.
trust.
Yeah, yep, it was deeply manipulative.
Absolutely.
But so a lot of this album too is like I understand that it's systemic, and those girls are reacting to a larger societal problem, and it was the pandemic. It was a beautiful day in November. It was a rash of teenagers doing this. You probably remember, they still are, you know. And, you know, they're mad. They're pissed. They're like taking it out in a way that, because maybe their families aren't supportive, maybe the system isn't supportive. It was online school, you know, there were so many things. And I just like, truly my heart goes out to them, you know? And so it's a lot of grappling with like, okay, they almost killed me. They tried to steal my Jeep and everything.
Because they crashed it with you.
Yeah, so they stole my phone. Like, they wanted to use my phone to call someone because they needed a ride. That was their first
The story,
thing.
yeah.
And the reason I kind of stopped for them, they were like right outside of my house, and I was like turning in to like go into my garage. And then, so it was just, I got a lot of public shaming for this because people just thought I was stupid, you know, when it went out on the internet, you know?
That's helpful, isn't it?
Yeah. I know, it was terrible.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
so they wanted to ride, but I said no because of the pandemic, you know, and I was like, I didn't really completely trust them. And then they were like, well, can we use your phone? And I said, okay. And so they were on my phone, and then after a minute or two, I was like, well, screw it, I'll just give you a ride. It's just like half a mile or something. And then I always have gear in my car, so the seats were down and back, so I got out to put the seats up. And at that point, one of them had my phone and started running around in circles.
Wow.
And was like, you're not getting your phone back. And then the other one at that point jumped in to my car, and I was like, I don't know if I can swear on here, but I was like, fuck, no, you don't. It was like I was like overcome by the fight instinct, which was like, who am I? Like, I was surprised myself. I was like, fuck, no, you don't. And I jumped on top of her.
Yeah.
And then we wrestled. And she put the pedal to the floor, the gas pedal to the floor, and we crashed through my neighbor's fence into his garage. And then I was like, I kind of blacked out, and then she got out, and then we ran.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happened before writing any of these songs.
Yeah, I mean, I had written Bones in the Marrow, and I had written The Weight.
Okay.
But the rest came later. Yeah.
Salt in the Wound is a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's about that.
Yeah,
sure.
I can tell. Yeah. Break me open over and over, salt in the wound as I'm trying to recover. I mean, the betrayal of trust that happens there, where someone, you know, you're going about your day, and then there's a request for help, and against your better judgment, you decide to benevolently help, and then that occurs. The phrase that I think has come up in both of our previous interviews is the Leonard Cohen phrase about the crack, and the crack is where the light comes in.
Yes.
And I love what you do with it.
Do you? I know. I hope it's like, it's a little like, woo, it's a little juicy, that one. But
well, I mean, as you said, we are allowed to swear. And that's good because there's like even in the titles of your songs, the previous record we have shit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I know.
And
you fuck me up.
Yeah, you fuck me up. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, you've got a high bar. The lyric in the chorus that I really love, because I think it's clever, is Leonard says cracks are how the light gets in, as established. Well, then I'm a cracked whore. It feels like I'm crumbling. And the reason why I think it's really clever is that, I can relate to the experience of, okay, by this point I know that the only way out is through, and that the integration and the healing process involves being with discomfort. And surely this level of repeated discomfort isn't necessary, universe.
Right.
And then I'm also conscious, I think I did used to participate more in drama triangle dynamics than I do now. And so sometimes, the idea of being addicted to certain types of dysfunction or certain emotions, even. So there's multiple things going on here with the double meaning of the word crack. Opens up that, I am experiencing a lot of crumbling and seeming disintegration on the one hand. Yes, I know that that's what I need to be with and pay attention to heal. And in my experience, I would sometimes kind of take that, if the same thing is happening again a bunch, I'd take that as a sign that I'm, the crack whore metaphor is appropriate because of the idea of being addicted to certain forms of suffering, perhaps. I think both things are happening. This is to be expected. Discomfort is what I need to be with as part of my practice. And, if it's the same discomfort, does that mean that perhaps I'm addicted to something that I could let go?
Right. Yeah, that's great. Wow. So crack is where the light gets in. So the wound offers its own solution sometimes for healing. And then I'm a crack whore, meaning I'm a crack whore for the cracks where the light gets in.
Exactly,
So then it's like I'm a whore for the light.
Exactly. Which is a good thing. Yeah, exactly. I think I'd like to think that I'm a whore for the light. I'm following that the way to be the whore for the light is to be the whore for the crack that the light gets in. But to become the whore for the crack.
How many times do we need to? Well, I mean, this experience was a definite crack, in my belief in humanity.
Absolutely. The experience that we were just discussing, yes.
Right, and then, but then within that, I was able to, receive so much support from the community, like my friends, unexpected people really came out, really beautiful, you know who you are if you're watching this, but really unexpected. And then some other people kind of fell away. And
some people engaged in shaming.
And that was surprising too, and some people engaged in shaming. But so this was an experience that I didn't bring on unless, karmically or, some sort of portal, supposed to experience this in my life or, I don't really believe that type of thing.
No.
I don't believe that that violence done upon us is something that maybe we're destined to experience. I don't believe that whatsoever.
Neither do I.
Nor do I believe that people create their own cancer or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like there are many chaotic things that are out of our control in this wild world.
Yes.
But from that, I was very much PTSD. I still experience that from, I get triggered sometimes when I'm driving, and then, seeing two girls sometimes, I'm like, I get worked up a little bit. Parking lots, just and even leaving my garage or returning to it, or so I didn't. I think I was for a long time just really vulnerable and wasn't shored up enough, And I got into kind of a few romantic relationships after that were abusive. One extremely emotionally abusive one. I just like hadn't given myself time to like restructure like from that like crack.
Yeah.
You know. So I think in that, you know, I was just like there was like this brokenness and vulnerability that also like just being a sensitive person, I do attract sometimes this like other controlling darkness. And that really happened after that. So, and that led to a few other songs. And yeah, I just like, that is something that is a pattern that I have really had to look at for sure.
So we were talking about looking at our patterns, and we were talking about the kind of magic catalyst for growth, this compassionate witnessing. It's very difficult to like see the pattern that could be repatterned, and to not just jump straight to bad. Like, this is bad, I am bad. And this song, the compassionate witnessing that we were recognizing in the previous record, is, I think there's a new level of application of that compassionate witnessing in this song, where it starts, we're in the trauma response. And the opening lyric is, you could say I'm floundering, you could say I'm dissociating. You might be right, but I can justify that I'm doing the best with what I've got. So it's like, yes, of course I'm in the trauma response. And no amount of neat concluding, well, one shouldn't be in the trauma response, should one? Like, that's not, that is not helpful.
God. Like,
and there is so much of that, I think.
And control yourself, you know. Get over it.
This obviously has to do with this particular experience that you had. So, well, yes, and now the body keeps the score, and this is where I'm at. And my big challenge now is to be with this open wound. And I already know the crack is where the light gets in. I already know that on an abstract level. But like, look at this wound.
Do you ever like have like a literal wound, like say like you cut your finger or like you bruise your knee, and then you just like for whatever reason keep hitting it again? Like just keep bumping the same place. Like that just happened to me the other day. I'm like, what is that? It's like this, like it's already wounded. I'm just bumping it again, you know.
It's salt getting into it. Pouring the salt on it or finding salt in it somehow. Trying to stay present, but the triggers are hot. And then, so that is the challenge. That's a challenge in general for all of us. So this is something, again, that Chance York and I were talking about in our conversation in this Music Heals Us series. The challenge of staying present. And unless one has cultivated some practices to stay present, there are so many obstacles to presence that we're probably unaware of the default state is being unaware of the impediments to presence.
For sure.
And so then sometimes it takes traumatizing event, then the obstacles to presence become more difficult to avoid, and the crack is how the light gets in. Then there's a level in which there's material that one can work with there that can lead one to presence. But this song doesn't jump to the conclusion, oh, thank you for this horrible experience. It's a means to become more present. The song doesn't do that. Wouldn't be as good as that wouldn't be a powerful song like Salt in the Wound is. So and then I love that it ends, help, I'm looking for it and I'm running from it. That is the state that one finds oneself in. That's also the default state. You know, if the it is the light, you know, I am looking for the light, but I'm also on some level like running from the the crack that will lead to the light.
Because, yeah, it's more familiar, you know. It's easier to sink back into an old way of being, into the pattern, than it is to, like, claw out of it, you know?
The yes and of that, the paradox of witnessing oneself, looking for light, but also understandably retracting. But then it becomes, I know that I will help myself. At one point, I prayed someone would help me. Then later, I prayed that I would help myself. And then eventually, I know that I will help myself. That is a beautiful trajectory for this particular song to have, I think.
Thank you.
And this journey to, like, knowledge, I think, and cognition is key throughout the record. There's lots of references to things we know, things we don't want to know. Again, the opening lyric in The Wait. And there are many more. Again, later on in The Wait, I don't want to go, I don't want to see, I don't want to leave, I don't want to know again. There are multiple other songs that refer to knowing or not knowing. But then the record ends at the very end of Bedding Down with the Deer with we'll do our best to understand. And I think there is this important distinction between knowing, which just seems to me like more kind of cerebral, and understanding, which might involve the heart as well. The closing lyrics on the record, rest as long as you need. This is the kind of loving advice that one can give oneself or that one receives from true friends. When one has the open wound. Rest as long as you need. Sleep as deep as you can. Reach when you need
a hand.
Reach when you need a hand. We'll do our best to understand. That we'll do our best is interesting to bring into conversation with insult in the wound. I can justify that I'm doing the best with what I've got. So when I'm wounded, yes, obviously I'm in the trauma response. And I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got. What do you think about these two? I'm doing the best I can with what I've got, and then the closing statement, we'll do our best to understand. What's going on with knowing, understanding, doing the best?
Well, the twist with that, the Bedding Down with the Deer song, and that last phrase, those last phrases was, that is what I wish people, that is how I wish people would respond when people are going through trauma.
Me too.
So, and I did receive that, and from some, and then from some I did not. And it just, in reflection, having gone through something like that, I think it just expanded a compassion for, like, we're all just going through so much. Like, it's a barrage of everyone is going through so much, and it's such an intense world. So, like, if we can, have that heart-centered understanding that, like, we're doing our best to understand, and, like,
that is what is needed.
And, like, give people space and let them, you can't rush your healing. You can't force your healing, you know? It's like, you can do a bunch of stuff to, like, nourish, or you can completely avoid, you know? But and sometimes the avoidance is part of the healing too. You know?
Absolutely.
So just, like, let things, like, settle. So it's a very personal, that heart-centered understanding is hard to come by for sure.
When we were talking about the Granthis.
Which one? The Granthis,
the Granthis
yes.
Before, these, like, locks and knots. You were saying that it's protective as well as kind of constraining.
Yes.
Which seems relevant to what we're talking about now. So sometimes, like, the pattern, if I'm, like, locked in the pattern, that might seem dysfunctional to the outside observer. When we look at it with this compassionate witnessing, there's a wisdom to trauma, to the trauma response. bringing attention to it and shifting the balance of, okay, how protective does it need to be this tight
Right.
and this unbending?
Right.
Can it, but to just be like, oh, this is wrong,
Yeah.
that's not.
No,
it's just gonna stay there
yeah,
if it's
exactly.
like if it's wrong, if it's deemed to
Yeah.
be wrong. It's not coincidental, I think, that in bedding down with the deer in the chorus, we're feeling safer with the deer than in the company of people, than in my own damn bed, than in my own head as well.
Yeah.
So what is needed? I mean, it's the hierarchy of needs, like safety.
Yeah.
We need to focus on like meeting that safety need first.
Yep. Yeah.
The fact that the record ends with the voice that I too wish would be the default when someone is clearly hurting is just right. I think it's it's a sign of how well crafted this record is. So that's
Thank you.
the where it ends. Something that I kept on coming back to. This too is Shakti.
Yeah.
That's in the liner notes of the previous record.
Yep.
But I feel it's perhaps even more relevant here when compounded pain on top of pain in After the Disaster.
Yep.
I feel like After the Disaster is a more kind of global treatment of you have your specific experience in Salt in the Wound, but then you're also witnessing compounded pain on top of pain, salt on the wound, on not just in your life. And I feel like there is this too is Shakti to this compounding pain on pain. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, so Shakti is like the juice that fuels creation for anyone who's watching this. Shakti is like power and energy. You can look at, like in some spiritual traditions, Tantra, which I'm not so deep a student of, but my teacher, Tara Cindy Sherman, is a deep student and teacher of Tantra. But the philosophy of that, one of the many, is that all experiences can be portals to transformation, whether they are blissful or whether they are filled with terror. That it is all a weaving, that can lead to transformation, and all can be experienced as our teachers and in a way as blissful, almost like the salt in the wound, how it can kind of feel good in a way, or like, if you have a bruise and you hit it again, you're like, oh, well, that might kind of, I don't know. It's almost like, or like a deep, like cupping or like deep tissue massage. Like there's pain in it, but it's like ultimately like creating, your lymph is flowing, you're getting circulation, you're gonna have bruises the next day from the cupping, but like it is pulling, it is purifying in a way. So yeah, I think there's some of that going on. Yeah, like, I mean, having experienced that carjacking and like the layers of betrayal from that specific thing and after the aftershocks, and then kind of like seeking a partner who was also unsafe, or like being with someone who's unsafe. Not all the time, but it was like unsafe, and like I never really knew what the mood would be. It was like that sort of danger.
Yes.
That is an addictive cycle, because then that like love bombing, or like because then it's like, okay, are we safe? Oh good, we're safe. Oh no, we're not. It's like a constant state of alertness and agitation, and the body, it is like a
habituates
craving
itself to that.
Yeah,
and
that like
becomes the norm.
cortisol spike, and then the dopamine relaxing, but then like again, and it's like this level of excitement and drama that is like really addicting, like chemically, like, which is like so hard to soothe.
Yep.
Woo, it's hard to get out of that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
In my experience, circling back to Nada Yoga, I feel if I can tell that I am like agitated, listening to different sound frequencies, and particularly related to like the heart chakra,
beautiful.
can be grounding. Because I've like again the wisdom of the light gets in the crack.
Yeah.
I can see how it relates to this within the Tantra worldview, the idea that there can be all of the experience is material to kind of engage with and grow it through engaging with. But I feel like what we were talking about previously as sattva, unless one has means of cultivating this pure awareness and this like loving compassion, then it's less likely that these negative experiences are going to lead to growth for me. Does that?
Maybe, can you say that again?
So I think I could be experiencing all of these cracks and these wounds. And it gets to a certain point where, like, if it's just pain accumulating, you know, to quote after the disaster, compounded pain on top of pain. It gets to a point where how can one be expected to work with all of that material in a way that will lead to healing and growth if it's just amassing and amassing and amassing? In my experience, like, yes, if I'm able to meditate and like sit with my experience and invite this energy of like the heart chakra and the like loving kindness, then yes, being with the wound will enable me to grow. But how am I going to be with that energy, that loving kindness energy, if I'm like really, really wounded and the pain is just accumulating and accumulating?
Which it can do in this world. You know? It's so much coming at us, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that this is a very timely record in that respect, because although it is hopeful and life-affirming, I feel like the world is still our lover. And there's so much witnessing of pain as well. Would you agree that there's more witnessing of pain in this record than before?
I do. I do. I think it has a cohesiveness of that quality, I think.
So we referred to Leonard. Leonard says. There's also a Tory says. What Tory says is, your heavy boots sure can leave a mess. Tory says, I'm just sitting here waiting with bated breath. Which Tory is it?
Tori Amos.
I thought so. And which song, therefore?
Northern Lad.
I was hoping it was Tori Amos, but I'm just not familiar with that song.
She has a line about heavy boots leaving a mess in that song.
So that's what Tori says. We covered what Leonard says. What is the significance of what Tori says to the record?
Just, you know, those relationship messes that you know, I guess I've kept inviting these sort of messy boots. Here, welcome, come on in, you know. Here, let's have a mess, you know. And then not deal with this other shit, you know. So, looking at that. I have been looking at it, and it really, I think I came to a good head with that.
Did the writing of some of these songs, was that part of the process of coming to?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And which of these songs helped you?
On the Draw Blood. Draw Blood.
Yeah. That opens with, you can't love if you can't laugh. And it ends with you laughing.
It's true. Wow, I didn't even put that together.
You fucking asshole. And then there's some release happening.
For sure. Well, we were debating, is it my laughter or is it Jeremy's guitar? And it's like hard to tell, but it does for sure sound like me laughing.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like a mechanical, like a string.
Yeah.
So I haven't like looked at the files to see exactly which.
Yeah. It does sound like you laughing.
It does.
It could
Yeah.
be both. Jeremy's guitar is, of course, central.
Yeah, it's really
to the record. The chaos or the storm that is also potentially Shakti. Often like the soundscapes, like Jeremy's guitar is like really key to like sonically like evoking that which is being grappled with.
Totally.
Are there songs or moments where you feel that that's particularly true?
With his guitar? Ooh. Well, I mean, it captures soundscapes is a perfect word for it. In the title track, there's like that oceanic, almost like, I always call it his whale sounds, you know, like the beautiful kind of, under the sea moments. Yeah,
absolutely. So we have, the record begins with piano and then the whale sounds.
Yep. And in After the Disaster, I speak about the tarot cards, the tower and the star.
Oh, yes.
Yep, so after the tower comes the star, and then he does this little star sound. It's like, doo-doo-doo, like a little like tapping with the harmonics. Ooh,
yes,
perfect.
I love that moment. I know the moment
you know that one?
I do, yeah.
What a listener.
I feel like After the Disaster is, like in that song, we are after the disaster. And there are moments in The Wildness of Living and Dying and in like Trying to Fight the Wind.
Yeah.
Where we were in, we have
like
the sound of the disaster.
Yep. Yeah, it took me a moment to come to that one, but yeah.
And the bass, like Steve's bass.
So crunchy.
Yeah, exactly, in Trying to Fight the Wind. There, the swirl of change begins, is followed by You Don't Know. I was saying there's lots of statements about knowing and not knowing, not wanting to know. But You Don't Know is then repeated in lots of different ways. I feel like we announce the swirl of change begins, and then we have paradoxically repetition, like not change, the same words, you don't know. But it's an all kind, but it changes.
Yeah.
It swells and changes. And then we have multiple vocals. And we have something similar happening in Right Now, which also has like the sound of disaster. But that is this one that I think is most is too with Shakti. It's like that song is celebrating everything.
Everything, yes.
And there the multiple vocals stand alone and watch the tall pines. The paradoxical thing that's happening there is that we're standing alone and watching the tall pines, but we have harmonies with multiple vocals as we're alone.
Yeah.
And that really works as well. So I love all of these lots of good artful production choices that you and Steve are making. Do you have any further thoughts on like these components Right Now and Trying to Fight the Wind?
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, one of my favorite sounds is the wind through the pines.
Yeah.
And you know they're both like we cannot control. We can't control, and we don't know how it's all going to play out. You know, so there's a letting go element and a surrender element and a unknowing. You know.
Yeah.
It's actually standalone amongst the tall pines. And so the wind is through the pines. The world is happening. People are dying. There are accidents. There's babies crying. Somebody's practicing piano. You know, there's geese flying away, butterflies. You know.
New lovers are making love before work.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Lovers making love.
A woman sits laden in grief. At 2 points in the song.
Yeah.
I think it's significant that that's the one thing that's encountered twice.
Yeah, I just feel a lot of, I think as a woman, I feel a lot of women feel a lot of women grieving
Yeah.
right now, and men too, and everyone of all genders are grieving right now.
I think that is an artful choice too. That yes, Shakti is in everything in this song.
Yep.
And some things are attended to more than others still. And what's attended to most is this woman sitting laden with grief. And I feel like with how the record ends as well, we'll do our best to understand, rest as long as you need, like sit in your grief as long as you need.
Yeah.
Is a recurring invitation that this loving, compassionate record offers. I think that's at the center of it.
Yeah.
Sit in your grief as long
Wow,
as you need.
I think you're right.
I love how in Right Now, it's pulsating. It's very well done. Like all of this instrumentation is extremely well done.
Awesome.
For the sense of like and it makes, we were talking about the barriers to presence.
Yeah.
And this song is a kind of call for presence. Like
Yeah.
what's happening right now? This is happening. This is
Yeah.
happening. This is happening. And then just as we are like the repetition, we're expecting the song to be the certain way, then when it gets to your heart hurts, your head hurts, your eyes hurt, your hands hurt, there's a sudden departure. And all sonically, like all of the instruments
Yeah.
shift. Yeah. That seems a really interesting thing for a song called Right Now to do, just as it's lulled us into, okay, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, but then right now, you're the staccato kind of that.
Yep.
Do you have any reflections on presence and right now and like what the music is doing? Again, maybe in relation, the music heals us.
Yeah.
Like this song is very artfully composed, and the way and what the instruments are doing is interestingly relating to what the lyrics are exploring, and it's affecting the listener in a way that could potentially be healing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much movement in
Yeah.
it. The drums, it's like and actually this single is gonna come out just a few weeks after our Music Heals Us.
Cool.
So end of September,
Yeah.
this single and video. The video is almost done. But yeah, there's a movement, there's a driving drum beat that's very like, and in the movement, movement is healing, and dancing, running, marching, skipping, everything.
The ravers
it
are
has a
cracked
very,
out from dancing.
What's that?
The ravers.
The ravers are cracked out from dancing.
dancing, yeah.
That's one of the lines.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time cracked out from dancing.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's healing.
Yeah.
And it's a key way that I keep myself present.
Awesome.
Through dancing and music. It's one of the main ways in which, as much as we focus on the lyrics of songs in the Back to the City music conversations, I spend more time dancing than I do talking about lyrics these days.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, they're the drummers and the dancers, it's like the response, and, you can evoke like a trance state dancing,
Yeah.
And then, of course, like yogic asana and that, is
Ecstatic
a
dance.
meditative movement. Yep,
Yeah.
ecstatic dance, Shakti flow, my teacher Tara teaches. So yeah, there's the music itself is there's a lot of movement in it.
Yeah.
And that can be felt, I think. And then that staccato piece is like that's like a call into, because you're starting to get into, it's a longer song. It's like over 4 minutes. So then you're in that trancey movement, but then that staccato part is like, come back.
Yeah.
And also like, it might be too much to like take in all of this happening right now.
The comeback is like right now.
Yeah.
It's a new, like, be present. It breaks you out of the kind of the trance.
Yeah.
And then there is so much movement, and so I love that this is a song that ends with the call to stand alone. Like there's a call, like, and the stillness. Paradoxically, a stillness is enabled as a result of all this movement.
Yeah.
There are many other things that could be said about this record. But I think that let's save a few things to say
Sure.
for September
7th.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Because I think that within your set, there'll be performances of songs from by that point, relatively soon to be released record that we've been taking a kind of preview of today. And there'll be, remind us again.
So I will be offering a few mantras.
Yep.
One is a mantra for the heart, aligning our life force energy with our heart. And then I've yet to decide the other one. I think it'll be a peace mantra for all beings. Yeah.
That seems very in keeping with the ethos of the record that we've been discussing today.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of songs that we haven't talked about, but I will save that for September 7th because they will also have like a little bit of reconnecting in dialogue form at some point within the set. I think you'll be opening the night.
Oh, great!
With because there's so much continuity between everything that you're doing and everything that Annie Fitzgerald is doing, and we're opening the first one.
Beautiful.
And then we'll also, I think that Venus de Mars and Larry Wish, there is so much focus on music healing, so much intentional focus on music healing in both of those artists, but in a way that departs from some of the specific sound healing practices and philosophies that say you and Annie are more immersed in. So on that note, immediately after this episode airs, we're going to air some little clips from recent interviews that I had with Larry Wish and with Venus de Mars to demonstrate how music is healing centric those artists are as well.
Neat.
So stick around after this, viewers, for a little bit of Larry and Venus in action. But in the meantime, we've arrived at the end of our conversation, which will resume briefly on the VFW stage on September 7th.
Awesome.
Thank you very much indeed, Mary, for joining us today.
Thank you,
and giving us a little preview of the new record. It really is excellent. Again, it comes out in January, everyone. So by the time that you're watching this, it might be possible to pre-order.
Yeah, I'm figuring that out. Kickstarter, to Kickstarter or not to Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, good news, by now, you figured it out.
Exactly.
And this is how one can make sure that one gets the record as soon as possible. Yeah. In the meantime, we'll see you at the VFW on September 7th. Thank you, Mary, for coming in today.
Thanks, Simon.
You're welcome. This has been Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder, and we'll be back at 10 p.m. next Thursday for more of our summer season.